This seems like it's Free Speech Day on Jeff Tidwell tweet. So I'm going to actually share a quote from my friend Tyler, where I actually shared this on Twitter, and I said, hey, this guy freedoms. So he says this about free speech when another friend of mine was arguing with him that the First Amendment only covers the government, not taking into account that these mega corporations are the gatekeepers for speech, for communication and dialogue today in the 21st century. Okay? So it's, the founding fathers, the framers, however you'd like to frame them, they were very prescient. There are great things about the Constitution that will hold true probably forever. But they weren't prescient enough to see the internet coming, to see an entirely new frontier of information, dialogue, discourse, and just everything that the internet has brought, commerce, everything. They couldn't see that coming. So the First Amendment, of course, has limitations, and it focuses on keeping the government away from restricting your speech. It's like a law that's almost like an anti-law. The law is to give you more freedom. This is a form of positive authority. It's a law that actually gives you more freedom. Okay? So Tyler says here, free speech is an Enlightenment ideal. The Enlightenment era of the 19th century philosophy. It's an enlightening ideal that predates the First Amendment. So it wasn't just the Enlightenment era in the 19th century. I mean, free speech goes all the way back many, many millennia. Okay, all the way back to the earliest philosophers. Okay, just being able to dialogue, to put one opinion up against another, and be able to speak without restriction. Free speech is this ideal. So he says here, the First Amendment merely recognizes it, or rather is a restriction of government power, as I said, as are all amendments in the Bill of Rights. It's completely legitimate to decry censorship, be it a government, a large company, or a university. And he goes on to critique the xkcd comic that talks about censorship and basically looks at it in the context of a household. Okay, so like they say, we'll show you the door if we don't like what you're saying. If that's your household, if you're in your house, which may be a physical house or one on the internet, of course, you should be able to use that ability. And no one's arguing over that. Okay, but when a company that has no liability, because they haven't determined whether they're a platform or a publisher, but they choose to be a publisher when it suits their ideological interests or their business interests, and of course they are the gatekeepers of speech to the point where, of course, you have, there are cries of election interference through 12 Russians that put up Buff Bernie ads and Buff Bernie comics on the internet that had ads up for Bernie Sanders, Donald Trump, and Hillary Clinton, but of course they only talk about it in the context that Trump is at fault. Because Orange Man bad and Orange Man Russian spy. Putin, Russia. Moscow, Kremlin. I actually kind of miss Robert Mueller. But, as you know, Russiagate was a hoax. It's a conspiracy theory. So, if you'd like to wear your tinfoil hat... Now, I don't like to use that word, conspiracy theory. I think it actually kind of undermines the scientific process, the Socratic process, the intellectualism of, thinking, hey, I see a connection here. I see some information there that kind of correlates, or it has, correlation not being causation, but, when you say it's a conspiracy theory, oh, you're connecting two dots. Yeah, it is kind of fighting against a pro-information mindset. It's fighting against science because you're rejecting things that there seems to be some coincidence there. There seems to be something. Now, I'm not advocating that people get lost in far-fetched ideas and stories that don't have any observable evidence, that are like mind reading and connecting dots, and in rejecting information that doesn't go with your hypothesis. Like, there are forms of conspiracy theory that are illegitimate because they lack evidence. They lack any observable truth. It's all, cerebral. It's in somebody's head. But I don't like to use that term too often because it dissuades people from looking deeper. But Robert Mueller did look pretty damn deep for about 2 years, and people on both sides of the political spectrum were saying since 2016, notably those that read WikiLeaks, they said, there's nothing here. Like, if you got to have something there. We'll believe that Orange Man Russian asset if there's something there. Okay, that's all it is. I'll join the investigation myself. I will put on my honorary badge, take the drug that is Robert Mueller, and I will be ready to go. Okay? But we don't have that information. In fact, we have information that Hillary Clinton's campaign colluded to get the Steele dossier. It's Oppo research. Okay? Oppo, as Trump says, it's opposition research, largely fabricated. And then, of course, Christopher Steele goes in and gets some truth in there, little bits of truth. It's classic lying. Actually, definitely check out my video, A Pro Tip for Lying. I can tell you all about how I view the world of infidelity and dishonesty. And we can get to the bottom of it together. So, Tyler continues here. XKCD's comic on free speech that focuses on the household element is embarrassingly short-sighted in a world of trillion-dollar companies that surpass most governments. So the political sway, the power of Facebook or even a Twitter, and in some cases other websites as well, these sites are so powerful that they have more sway over the direction of the world. If they suppress certain people, they would change the trajectory of the world. They would change voting behavior. They would change these things. They would interfere in elections more than any 12 Russians ever could. And they already have. They already are. And you're going to see more of it as we approach the 2020 election. So definitely be on the eye. Keep an eye out for that. These companies hold amazing sway, and they all work together. It's a vertical monopoly, okay? You have a cartel, a digital cartel that works with the bank companies, and they can debank people. Chase was caught essentially debanking and limiting people based on their ideology. So not only does a company, say for example Gab, not only do they lose their voice, they get slander, they get slammed, hit pieces written about them in the mainstream media, they get misconstrued, all their users get demonized, including myself, and probably you as well. And then it's not limited to just the social media companies, the video sites, and then Facebook, Twitter, Reddit, and so on and so forth. They go on and say, well, you shouldn't have a bank account either. We're going to debank you. And then, of course, with Gab, they lost their hosting. So it goes beyond, it's like you can be deplatformed from the entire internet every way. And that ultimately that's called depersoning, when they just remove you from commerce. Like, you don't have a free market. You're being suppressed from everything. I don't think that's very safe. I think that's rather dangerous, in fact. So these very large companies, and they're politically connected. They are politically connected. They follow a certain ideology. They ban certain ideologies over others. Now, I consider myself independent and largely libertarian, But there was a study done, and I think the top 20 people in terms of popularity that were banned from social media or suppressed were on the right. So that doesn't mean that the left is safe. They are next. Okay? And they have already been censored and banned. I think it was Think Progress. You can correct me on that if you'd like in the comments below. But I believe it might have been Think Progress and several other, many, hundreds of others of groups, left-wing, were banned on Facebook. So censorship and free speech are not a partisan issue, okay? It's not a right-wing issue. It's not a left-wing issue. This affects everybody, okay? We don't all want to be martyrs. So that's why I'm on BitChute. If YouTube succumbs to the prophets of the modern religion that is censorship and knocks me off for whatever reason, I don't intend to make any money through my content here, but if they kick me off for ideological reasons, if I say something that's inappropriate, okay, free market, I have BitChute and those automatic uploads, so it's pretty cool. So Tyler continues. In the wake of rampant no platforming and intimidation, I find that the comic posted by xkcd gives way too much moral cover to the angry mob that we are all prone to. So that's right. People fall into groupthink, and they all associate a certain way. They all agree that your opinion is no longer valid, that you are now a bigot, you are hateful, or you are ignorant, you are dangerously ignorant, you could lead people astray. They don't have their own agency. They don't have their own individual agency. They don't have their own thought process. You are just dangerous. These words can kill. And meanwhile, I say no. Censorship kills. It kills enlightenment. It kills dialogue. It kills debate. It kills science. And at the end of the day, yes, it kills people. Not directly. Not directly. But it kills people. Censorship kills people. Okay? Because when information is withheld for any reason that could save a life, all right? If somebody's voice is removed, yes, it might require a little bit of a butterfly effect. Okay, it might be causal. It might be a causal chain. But censorship can do untold damage. And we're letting private companies, these private companies that have public subsidies, to control everything, to control what's acceptable and what isn't. And without transparency, it's dangerous beyond belief, as evidenced by how often I've spoken of the topic in this video. This is the free speech video on Jeff Tidwell's channel.